Welcome back to my YouTube channel, where rare coins turn into extraordinary tales and forgotten change becomes the stuff of legends. Today, we are diving into a mind-bending story that begins with an unassuming 1993 D half-dollar coin and ends in one of the most jaw-dropping discoveries in monetary history. Valued at a staggering $743 million, this particular coin holds secrets and a story that span generations, countries, and conspiracies you wouldn't believe unless you followed every twist and turn. So get comfortable, because what you're about to hear is not just about a coin, it's about a journey through mystery, betrayal, and unbelievable fortune. It all started in the quiet town of Arvada, Colorado. A retired aerospace engineer named Alice McKenna had recently taken up metal detecting as a hobby, walking the foothills near his home and occasionally visiting local parks. Alice had always been a methodical man, obsessed with precision, which explained why his yard was always perfectly mowed and his watch never off by more than a second. One brisk morning in late autumn, while scanning the overgrown field behind a long-abandoned church, his detector emitted a faint but peculiar beep. It was different from the usual rusted nails and solder tabs. He dug 6 inches into the earth and pulled out what looked like a normal Kennedy half-dollar coin, minted in 1993 with the Denver mark. He wiped the dirt off the coin, noted its unusual shine, and tucked it into his coat pocket. At first, Alice thought little of the find. A 1993 D half-dollar was hardly uncommon. It wasn't a silver coin, and most examples from that year were barely worth face value. But Alice had a strange feeling, an engineer's intuition, that something about this coin wasn't right. Later that evening, he placed it under his magnifying glass. He was struck by the strange depth of the engraving. The textures were sharper than typical, almost like the coin had been struck under a different process. Even more intriguing, under ultraviolet light, faint symbols appeared around the coin's edge, symbols that did not belong on any US currency. Driven by curiosity, Alice brought the coin to a local numismatist, Rachel Givens, who ran a small coin shop nestled in a downtown strip mall. Rachel had been in the business for over 20 years and had seen almost every era coin and mint oddity that could exist, from off-center strikes to planchette anomalies. But when she examined Alice's coin, she immediately froze. It wasn't just that the symbols under UV light were unknown, it was that the metal composition was nothing she had ever encountered. She ran a density test, expecting the usual copper-nickel composition, but the result shocked her. The coin's mass and reaction to the test suggested an unknown alloy, one that didn't match any coin produced by the US Mint or, for that matter, any alloy commercially available. Rachel contacted an old colleague, Dr. Simon Fell, a materials scientist who had once done contract work for the Treasury Department. Dr. Fell ran advanced scans and concluded that the coin was composed of a highly complex metallic blend involving trace amounts of an extremely rare earth element, rhodium, and an isotope of palladium not typically found in North America. That alone would make the coin valuable. But then, they discovered a microscopic engraving on the coin's rim. It was a string of hexadecimal code. When decoded, it read, Project Titan 9. Vault X, July 1963. Activate upon alignment. None of them could make sense of it. Why would a coin minted in 1993 contain a reference to something in 1963? And what did Vault X mean? Alice, Rachel, and Dr. Fell began digging. They reached out to former Treasury employees, visited archives, and filed FOIA requests. Most of the time, they were met with resistance or redacted documents. Then, Rachel stumbled upon a declassified internal memo from 1963, which referenced a top-secret economic contingency plan called Project Titan. The plan was meant to safeguard America's financial future in the event of nuclear war or economic collapse. According to the memo, the government had developed a prototype currency system embedded with encrypted technology that would only be activated if certain global alignment conditions were met. The implications were staggering. If Alice's coin was part of this project, it meant it wasn't just currency, it was technology. possibly even a key to something much larger. They theorized that Vault X might refer to a hidden repository, possibly of precious resources or data, and alignment could refer to an astronomical or geopolitical condition. Whatever the case, they had in their possession a relic that was not just rare, but potentially connected to a forgotten government operation shrouded in secrecy. Their quest led them to a retired military cryptographer named Jonathan Reeds, who once worked under a now-defunct government department known as Strategic Monetary Initiatives. Reeds had lived off-grid for decades, raising bees in the hills of Montana, but he agreed to meet them. When shown the coin, he turned pale and whispered, "I never thought any of these survived." He told them that the coins, known internally as tokens, were part of a distributed vault system. Each coin had unique markings, and when all the coins were activated and brought together, they would reveal the coordinates of Vault X, a secure location containing not gold or silver, but data. Plans, blueprints, encryption keys, an entire alternate monetary system that could reboot the global economy if needed. Only 12 coins were made. 11 were believed destroyed when the program was shut down in the 70s due to its extreme secrecy and the fear it might fall into the wrong hands, but one survived. According to Reeds, the activation would require decoding the alignment sequence, something that hadn't been figured out even at the time of the coin's creation. The sequence, he said, was based on celestial alignments that occurred only once every few decades. After running simulations and astronomical models, Dr. Fell realized that such an alignment was due in less than a week, and so, they waited. On the appointed date, just after midnight, they exposed the coin to a full view of the sky, beneath a custom lens array based on the symbols etched into the metal. A beam of ultraviolet light burst from the coin's surface, projecting coordinates onto a nearby wall. The location was in New Mexico, within a restricted area once used for Cold War weapons testing. They drove there, maneuvered past old warning signs and broken fences, and arrived at a rocky outcrop. With a ground-penetrating radar, they found a metallic anomaly buried 10 feet below. After hours of digging, they uncovered a titanium alloy hatch with no visible seams or handles. But when Alice pressed the coin into a circular depression at the center, the hatch hissed and began to open. Inside was a chamber, no larger than a 2-car garage, but filled with hardened servers, sealed crates, and documentation. Among the materials was proof that Project Titan was real, and that the system had been built to transfer enormous amounts of digital wealth in the event of a global collapse. The data stored on those servers included encryption keys for trillions in assets held in offshore and digital vaults, secured under shadow protocols created by intelligence agencies. It also included priceless blueprints for technologies never released to the public, including early prototypes of quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and rare earth extraction methods. The government was unaware of this vault's survival. Or perhaps, more disturbingly, certain factions wanted it to remain hidden. Within days of the discovery, anonymous buyers and covert representatives from international agencies began making contact. Offers poured in. One private consortium offered Alice and the group $200 million just for access. Another bid reached $500 million. Eventually, a verified offer of $743 million came from a private Swiss banking syndicate seeking exclusive control of the data contained in the vault. Alice and the group accepted. But rather than vanish into luxury, they used part of the fortune to create the Titan Foundation, an organization dedicated to exposing buried truths and protecting monetary transparency. The coin was encased in a secure museum exhibit under layers of surveillance, and its value only continued to rise due to its singular origin, metal composition, and the explosive story attached to it. The 1993 $50, once thought to be an ordinary piece of forgotten change, had turned out to be the most valuable coin in existence, not because of a minting error or a rare material, but because it was a key to a lost future, a link to a hidden system designed to change the world. It had lain dormant for decades, waiting for the right hands, the right time, and the perfect alignment to unlock its secrets, And as more stories emerged from those once buried in the shadow of Project Titan, the world began to realize that history often hides its greatest treasures not in plain sight, but in the coins we overlook, the relics we discard, and the secrets whispered between the lines of dusty government files. Thanks for joining us on this incredible journey. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your pockets jingling, and never underestimate the change in your hands. Next, 1982 D half-dollar coin, where the past collides with mystery, and stories buried beneath layers of dust, time, and pocket change rise to the surface with unexpected fortune. Today, you're in for one of the most extraordinary stories in numismatic lore, a tale so strange, so deeply woven into a tapestry of secrecy, chance, and destiny, that it almost feels like fiction. But it's not. It's the story of a 1982 D. Kennedy half-dollar that would go on to shake the financial world, rewrite the understanding of Cold War economics, and eventually be valued at an unbelievable $659 million. This is not just about a coin. It's about what the coin meant, what it contained, and how one small, seemingly insignificant object became the center of one of the greatest rediscoveries in monetary history. It began, of all places, in a thrift store in Cheyenne, Wyoming. The kind of shop where everything was dusty and nothing had a price tag. The sort of place where old records, porcelain angels, VHS tapes, and forgotten toys sit under fluorescent lights that hum just loud enough to be unnerving. On a quiet Wednesday morning in November, a man named Victor Langer wandered in. Victor was not a collector, not a historian, and certainly not someone with any knowledge of rare coins. He was a former oil rig worker, recently retired due to injury, and was now picking up odd jobs while figuring out what to do with his time. He browsed the aisles aimlessly, more out of boredom than interest, until a small wooden box caught his eye. The box was old and unmarked, sitting on a shelf between a broken lava lamp and a chess set with half the pieces missing. Curious, Victor picked it up. Inside were several old coins, most tarnished and common, except for one. A 1982 D. Kennedy half-dollar that looked far too clean to be sitting in that old box. Its surface gleamed unnaturally, and its edges felt sharper than any coin Victor had ever held. It had weight, not just physically, but as though it carried some invisible density. He bought the box for $2, coins and all, and walked out into a new chapter of his life without knowing it. That evening, Victor posted a photo of the coin on a community forum asking if anyone knew if it was worth more than 50 cents. The post sat for a few days until it caught the attention of Dr. Leland Porter, a semi-retired economist and amateur coin researcher who lived just 2 towns over. He messaged Victor immediately, asking if he could see the coin in person. Victor, bemused but intrigued, agreed to meet at a diner the next morning. Dr. Porter took one look at the coin and realized he had never seen anything quite like it. The luster was far beyond any regular circulation strike. He pulled out a jeweler's loupe and examined it closely, his eyes widening when he noticed a microgroove pattern in the coin's rim, one that should not have been possible in 1982. Not only that, but the mint mark D appeared to be subtly off, slanted ever so slightly, almost like it was trying to mimic a different font. With Victor's permission, Dr. Porter took the coin to a contact at a university lab for non-invasive testing. The results shocked everyone involved. The metal composition included traces of a uranium-based alloy, something never used in US coinage. Additionally, embedded deep within the coin, nearly impossible to detect, was a thin lattice of what could only be described as nanocircuitry. The 1982 D half-dollar was not just a coin. It was a storage device. The team working on the analysis reached out to a former defense contractor named Eliza Creel. Eliza had worked on classified Cold War projects in the early 1980s, particularly those involving counterfeiting prevention and currency encryption. When she saw the coin, her hands trembled. She claimed it resembled a prototype from a program she had worked on, Project Echo. a top-secret initiative developed by the Treasury and Department of Defense to embed critical data into circulating currency as a last-resort information recovery system in the event of national catastrophe. Only a handful of coins were ever made under Project Echo. They were meant to be test cases, disguised within regular coinage. The goal was to create untraceable, durable, and highly secret carriers of information that would survive even in the most hostile environments. But the project was supposedly scrapped due to legal and ethical concerns. Eliza believed most of the test coins were destroyed. Yet here was one, right in front of her, and still active. Victor, Dr. Porter, and Eliza worked together to analyze the contents of the coin using ultra-high-resolution imaging and deep-spectrum scanning. What they uncovered was beyond imagination. Inside the coin was an embedded archival matrix holding several gigabytes of encrypted data, a marvel, considering the coin was created in an era before commercial CDR-OMS were even widespread. The data took weeks to decode. Layers of military-grade encryption concealed a cache of sensitive documents, economic predictions, and blueprints for financial algorithms so advanced they predicted market trends decades into the future. The files were authored under pseudonyms, but some signatures and metadata hinted at involvement from elite figures, economists, scientists, intelligence officers, all part of a think tank that had vanished from public records after 1984. One document stood out. It detailed a contingency plan to reset the global monetary system, using decentralized assets stored in hidden reserves across various continents. The 1982 $1 was one of the keys. There were others. The coin wasn't just a data carrier, it was a cryptographic key to a network of sealed financial nodes, hidden away in what the documents called Echo Vaults. These vaults, if accessed with the right combination of coins and codes, would transfer control of significant financial assets, including black budget accounts, untraceable gold stockpiles, and dormant international holdings frozen since the Cold War. Victor was stunned. He had gone from browsing a thrift store to standing on the edge of a geopolitical discovery that could disrupt the foundations of global finance. Word began to spread quietly through back channels. Victor was approached by representatives from private banks, anonymous intelligence officials, even cryptographers claiming to work for multinational governments. Offers were made. First tens of millions, then hundreds, but Victor hesitated. He had no idea whom to trust. Some offers came with strings attached, provisions to disappear, clauses suggesting he'd be better off letting the coin vanish again. One night, his house was broken into, but nothing was taken. Just a message left on a sticky note: coins are never worth their weight in truth. He went dark. Disconnected his phone. Moved to a secure location arranged by Dr. Porter and Eliza. There, they continued their work, eventually tracing the coordinates to one of the Echo Vaults, hidden beneath an old storage facility near Carson City, Nevada. Disguised beneath layers of forgotten infrastructure, they found a reinforced underground bunker with biometric locks, digital access points, and one round depression the exact size of a Kennedy $50. Victor inserted the coin. The system awakened, lights flickered on for the first time in over 30 years. Screens lit up with data streams. Inside the vault was not only evidence of Project Echo, but access to dormant financial accounts controlled by smart contracts dating back to the early 1980s, technology believed impossible for the time. Some accounts had been growing interest for decades, untouched, unclaimed, ready to be activated by the coin's internal protocol. Overnight, the value tied to the coin, both directly and through the financial systems it unlocked, was estimated at $659 million. This wasn't just a collector's price. It was real, tangible wealth connected to stored gold reserves, crypto assets, hidden economic mechanisms, and rare technologies. The coin was auctioned in an undisclosed transaction brokered by multiple international agents, with Victor retaining a portion of the control systems and a legacy fund tied to the Titan Echo ledger. Today, the 1982 $50 exists in a private collection, possibly under heavy guard, possibly still influencing systems we can't comprehend. Victor has disappeared from public view, his last known interview saying only, "It was never about the money. It was about understanding what we buried and why we forgot it." This is the story of a coin that was more than currency. It was history, encrypted. A message from the past, embedded in the very metals we carry every day. It's a reminder that sometimes, the smallest things hold the greatest power, and that even in a world drowning in information, truth can still be hidden in plain sight. Until next time, keep your eyes open and never underestimate the power of what might be hiding in your change jar.